Check, 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 check. I feel like I always have to do that because whenever I watch these back and edit them, it seems like StreamYard takes a minute to adjust my volume. And so then I always feel like when I come in, my microphone is super, super loud. Hi. Hello, beautiful humans. Thank you for being here. Thank you for those of you who are on hour number 3. I feel like this is now an LDS church service and we're in the 3rd hour. Thanks for being here. It was so fun to see so many of you showing up at Surviving the Survivor. That was awesome. I can't chat when I'm on those panel discussions because I feel like I have to keep track of what everybody else is saying. And I also don't want my sound to be, keyboard clacking while I'm on there. So I appreciated everyone who showed up. I said hi to everybody, virtually. I didn't actually get to chat with you, but I appreciate you guys and all your good comments on there. And thank you for showing up for the John Larson episode. It started while STS was finishing. That was my fault. I always think that STS is going to be just at an hour, but then I realize that sometimes it goes over because it just depends on how the conversation is going and if we've covered everything that's interesting and important. So, and then for extra fun, while I was on STS, I got a text from my son who is, he started college this week. He's going to a university downtown. And I got a text from him while I was on STS that he had locked his keys in his car. And he knew what my internet schedule was tonight. So I was like, well, you're going to have to wait till I get off of this show. So while you guys were watching John Larson, I was watching also, but I couldn't chat much because after briefly saying hello, I went to go unlock his car door for him. And for some reason, I had in my mind it was going to take me about 40 minutes round trip. And so I left here, unlocked the car, and I was racing home. And I was like, oh, shoot, I'm going to get there at 8:20 and the show starts at 8:15 and people are just going to be sitting there and chat and they're going to leave because they've already been around for a couple of hours. And then when I got here, I was like, oh, it's not over yet. 8:45, not 8:15. So, my wonderful ADHD brain. Anyway, yes, that's why I didn't answer comments during the John Larson episode after the first probably 5 minutes or so. I was driving, so I was listening and I was watching comments scroll by. And whenever somebody tags me, it's like a little orange box that shows up, so I know that somebody tagged me. And I didn't see any of those going by, so I felt okay to not respond. And I knew Ashley was there. Ashley, thank you so much for all that you do for this channel and showing up every single time and always putting links in and always engaging in the conversation and always welcoming people. Ashley is the best. I think we should at least buy her a coffee or something. I am going to make this somewhat brief. I do want to talk about the John Larson episode. I think it was so interesting. It's such a wonderful conversation. I wanted to talk to him for another 2 hours. I want to know what you guys thought of the episode and his ideas and some of the things that he said. So I would love that if you would put that in the chat. I'm going to send a quick text. And just trying to, I'm always trying to find that balance. Today has been a super, super busy day. I had a couple of coaching clients, it was always so energizing and awesome. I love that. And then I edited 2 episodes today to get up on my podcast platform because I've been slacking on getting my stuff on Apple Podcasts, finishing out season 1, because what you saw tonight was actually the premiere of the first episode of season 2. So you guys got it before the podcast platforms are going to get it. What did you think? I love John Larson. I think he has so many incredibly interesting ideas and a lot of unpopular opinions. And I understand why his channel is not bigger than it is, because he has a lot of opinions that sort of, could have the potential of polarizing some people. And I think we tend to get stuck in a lot of our dogmatic ideas or ideas that have just been around for a long time. And when someone like John Larson comes along and challenges everything that we're thinking about or the way that we're living our life, it can be kind of painful to go, oh, wow, am I not doing this right? Um, so I love John Larson for the fact that he's unapologetically who he is, and he speaks his mind exactly as he's thinking, and he does call attention to a lot of things that are harmful, problematic, that I think sometimes people don't think about enough. And I love to hear his perspective, even when we disagree slightly on things. And I think that's one of the things I've learned the most over the last 5 years is to listen to the voices of people that I disagree with, because I think that I can still learn things from them. And sometimes I learn something new that causes me to change my opinion on something. And I love the idea of just being malleable in that way. Not that I just, listen to somebody and go, "Oh, I like that idea. I'm gonna think that way from now on." But it allows me to consider things in a new light and to take in new information and to consider other people's experiences and let that inform my own experiences and see where there's an overlap there. Um, so I'm just gonna put a couple of things up here, um, that I agree with. Speaking of listening to voices you disagree with. I'm always happy to have healthy pushback and um, good discourse on this channel of people who disagree. So if you do disagree, don't be afraid to put it up in the comments. I respect that John Larson doesn't play to the center, and I do too. He doesn't shift his opinion to try and be more attractive to followers. It's like he was saying his channel has something like 3,000 subscribers, which doesn't seem like a lot, but he's not going to change what he's doing in order to appeal to a wider audience, and I like that about him. Um, he's always been kind and supportive to my baby steps, though, and me too, and everybody's baby steps. I think when he encounters somebody who's willing to even change one thing or consider one thing differently, I think he loves that. So I love that about him. His big pictures are overwhelming, can be. Um, if you are not used to considering big picture things. And I think a lot of us get really focused on our lives and our experiences, and we don't spend a lot of time like zooming out. And that's one of the things that I think is so important to healing is zooming out of our own perspective and considering the globe as a whole. And I'll give you one example. When I was going through my faith deconstruction, and I started looking at the Bible with a new perspective. And then I zoomed out and I looked at the entire globe and I went, it is kind of crazy that all of Christianity follows this text that came from this infinitesimally small portion of the globe written by a very small group of people. Now, I'm not discounting the Bible. I'm not saying that it's untrue, invalid, wrong in any way. I'm just saying that zooming out to that global perspective was eye-opening for me, because then I started to consider the fact that people in other parts of the globe, on other parts of the planet, had different experiences and came up with their own mythologies and stories around a higher power. And I remember as a young Mormon kid being taught about Native American people referring to God as the Great Spirit. And I remember thinking to myself, well, they're still having spiritual experiences with a higher power. They just don't call it the same thing as us. And is that bad? I didn't think so at the time, and I still don't think so. So, anyway, big picture things can be hard to grasp, but I have made it a practice lately, especially in the last couple of years, to zoom out and try to look at things from a higher level and see that my experience is a very small part of the human experience. So, Johnny Shepherd, good to see you again. He is right about the simple life. It's simple, but you're almost constantly working, and that's so true. Even when I say to myself, I want to live more simply, well, that means changing a lot of things. And if I want to live in a way that's more in harmony with the earth, then it's going to take a lot more time, which time is an important resource to consider. So we can't always just throw away one thing and pick up another. And I think that's a lot of what we talked about tonight. Simple does not equal easy. It just means maybe less chaotic. It means maybe more organized. It means maybe just less complicated. If I can do something in a simpler way, and for me, this it comes back to the simplest things of like organizing things in my house in a way that they're easy to reach, they're easy to get to. I'm not having to dig through things, that kind of stuff. John Larson's channel is John Larson One, I believe. If you just search John Larson, and I also have his all of his links are in the show notes of the episode that we did. So his channel, the Dabbler Farm, his Amazon wish list for Dabbler Farm, the playlist on Mormon Stories podcast where all of his episodes appear, and then his original podcast, which was from like 2005, appears on the Open Stories Foundation, which Open Stories Foundation is the foundation that owns Mormon Stories podcast and the other parts of that foundation that John DeLynn runs, basically. So John Larson's original podcast called Mormon Discussion, I think, is hosted there at that website. So Destiny, good to see you. I loved when he brought up dyslexia and it being or not being a disability. I'm not diagnosed with it, but dysgraphia or dyscalculia, it's a known fact that learning disabilities go hand in hand. Yeah, and I have some mild dyslexia myself, and I think part of that goes with ADHD, I say, as I get distracted once again on something else. So I think a lot of these disabilities overlap. There's a Venn diagram there. Yes, change one thing, just one little tiny thing, and I love that. Work smarter, not harder. If we can, yeah, if we can simplify our routines and our habits and things, then that's obviously smarter. And there's the link to John's channel, Ashley. Thank you. So I just want to talk really briefly about things that are coming up. I have my pretty much all of my episodes planned out for the next several weeks. A lot of the interviews that I was telling you about that are going to be on season 2 are coming up. And I just wrote this down. And where is it? Okay. So I have the next 10 episodes planned out. So for the next 10 weeks, I have content that's already made and either needs editing or whatever. And so today, I wanted to give you a heads up about what next week's episode is going to be about. On Sundays from now on, it is still going to be intention setting, getting ready for the week. Let's start off the week really well. But I'm always going to have some kind of topic that is a focus. And last week we did the Marianne Williamson quote. This coming week, it'll be something similar to that. I'm always going to do either a quote or a concept or an idea from a person that I admire or follow or have learned from, and we'll have that discussion as well as intention setting. Then I just want to give you a heads up about next Wednesday's episode. And I'm going to post it pretty far in advance so that people have a chance to see that it's coming up for a couple of days in advance. And here's why. September is Unaliving Prevention Month. And I'm not going to say the word here because of YouTube. In the episode itself, however, I'm going to turn off live commenting. I'm going to demonetize the video. And I'm going to have a crawler on the screen of the prevention hotline, the 988 number. I'm inviting my therapist on, and we're going to have a very frank discussion about feelings of hopelessness and other feelings like that, and how to support loved ones who are going through a crisis like that, and also what to do for yourself if you're going through a mental health crisis. I think it's an important conversation to have. There's a chapter in my book where I discuss the fact that I just made a decision that I wanted to live, and then I came up with a plan to help prevent myself from going too far down the rabbit hole, if that makes sense. And so I wanted to give everybody a heads up about that in advance because it can be, of course, a very heavy topic for people. And I think it's an important conversation to have, but one that needs to be had with care. And I don't generally give trigger warnings because I believe our triggers exist to teach us things. But for this particular topic, I do want people to be prepared to care for their mental health while the episode is going on. I don't know yet whether I will do a live discussion afterwards. I'm still thinking about that because, again, I'm not a licensed mental health professional. And the reason that I invited my therapist on to have this discussion is because he is. And he does know the things that he needs to say in order to help people through that difficult time. So I think that where I'm leaning right now is that I'm not going to have a live discussion afterwards, just because I think we get into a situation where we want to share and we want to support each other, but I also don't want trauma dumping. I also don't want people to overshare and then regret it later. I don't want people to be harmed by what gets shared or not shared. I don't want people to be harmed if they mention something particularly sensitive and they don't get a response or they don't get as much of a response as they like. So, where I'm leaning right now is to not have a live afterwards. So, I welcome your feedback on that. As always, you're welcome to email me and let me know your thoughts, especially if this is a subject that's close to you and a subject that's problematic or difficult for you. I kind of want to spread the word so that anybody who needs to stay away next week can stay away and care for their mental health. Um, those are my thoughts on that subject right now, but I think it's important to do during this prevention month. And I'm also going to air again the live discussion that I had with Tommy Johnson about men's mental health, especially where religion is concerned. It's going to be an edited version of that episode. It was 2 hours long when it went up live. I'm going to edit out some of the things that are more specific to the Mormon experience and talk more about and focus more on the parts that talked about men's mental health. So I think that's going to be an important conversation. I will air that one live with live chat, and I'm going to ask Tommy if he will come and join us in the live chat afterwards. So that's going to be coming up after that. And then will be a couple of episodes about faith deconstruction and how to care for yourself if you're going through a major transition in your faith system. And then I'm going to have Britt Hartley on, who is just a wonderful, spectacular human being. She is an atheist spiritual director, and she runs a channel on TikTok called No Nonsense Spirituality. She believes in using the tools that are available to us in religion without having to take the truth claims into literal consideration. And she gives us a lot of ideas about how to be spiritual without being tied to a particular religious denomination. She's a fascinating person. I could talk to her again for hours and hours. We ended up having such a great conversation, and I've been holding on to it. All of these conversations, like the John Larson episode, you might notice the curtains in the background are the beige curtains. The beige curtains means I was at my daughter's house over the summer. So I've been holding on to a lot of these episodes for a long time just to get through the first season of podcasting that I wanted to get through and all of those topics. So that's what's coming up really for kind of like the next 6 weeks or so. I'm very excited about all of that stuff. I am also very excited about all of the people who have come to me for coaching and all of the people who are coming just to have quick conversations with me. Not every single one of them ends up doing coaching, and that's totally fine. I love connecting with you guys and hearing your stories. So don't forget that on my website at third-first.com, you can sign up for a free 15, 20-minute chat with me. Just tell me what you're thinking about, what you're focused on, what your goals are, and see if there's something that I can help you with. And if you're not interested in coaching, I can at least give you some ideas of action items that you can take moving forward. So I'm really just about connecting with you guys and loving to do that. So I spent my entire day yesterday dealing with a kind of dumb problem, and it sapped some of my energy. And then after having a really big long day today, I'm ready to just chill. So I really appreciate you guys being here. If you have any other questions, quickly put them in chat because I'm getting ready to jump off here. But I want to say one of the most interesting things that John Larson and I talked about is that, and a lot of you may have missed it because the episode started before STS was over. So if you were over there on STS and you jumped over, you probably missed the very beginning. But it was a clip out of John Larson's last episode on Mormon Stories podcast, which interestingly enough, he was talking about Satan, the concept of Satan, the concept of evil, which I found that's such a fascinating podcast to listen to. I did not grasp it all at once the first time. I had to go back and listen to it again because it just blew my mind on this on so many of the different things that he went over. I really appreciated some of the perspectives that he had to share there. But one of the things he shared on that was this idea that if you knew you only had a certain amount of time to live, and you were told that you could just go and live in a house that was paid for, you had your clothes that you needed but no extra money, and you were just going to live very simply for the rest of the time that you had left, would you do it? And he said, I think most of us would. And the irony is that we could choose to do that right now. We could choose to eliminate a lot of the extra things in our lives. We could choose to just simplify our lives from the standpoint of, I'm not going to consume any more than I absolutely need to. I'm not going to buy any more than I absolutely need to. I'm just going to be good and satisfied with what I have right now. And what I'm going to do is enjoy experiences and enjoy people and savor sights and sounds and feelings and things like that. So tonight, when my son told me he was locked out of his car, I was really bummed about not being able to engage with you guys in chat while you are, um, while you're there experiencing the episode, because I like to have some commentary about that. But, as I was driving back, I got to look at some really cool clouds because we had this wonderful mix today of like rain and also thunderstorms that started to form but then didn't actually do anything. So there were some wispy clouds, there were some cumulus clouds, and I happened to be driving west, like right when the sun was going down, so I got to savor some of the colors of the sunset. And I got to sort of revel in this idea that when my son needed me for something, I could just pick up and go take care of what he needed and help him with what he needed, and at the same time not really disappoint anybody. It's just being able, the idea of being able to savor what's happening to you right now, even if it's not ideal. And that's what I've really tried to focus on the last little while. And even yesterday, I, I was going through this really dumb situation that I had to deal with, but it needed to be dealt with, and it needed to be dealt with in a specific way. And it took almost my entire day. And I was kind of bummed about the things I was missing out on working on while I was dealing with that. But my mindset at the time was that this is the price of what I'm doing right now, is that sometimes I have to deal with annoying things. And it's worth the trade-off because I love this connection. I love the idea of this channel. I love talking to people about it. And I am grateful that I have a voice and a platform to say some things that I think are important. And I'm grateful for you for being here and for finding things that resonate with you and for considering things that may not resonate with you and for supporting each other as channel members. I'm really grateful for the way that you guys show up for each other in chat and for the way that you support me too when you know that I'm going through something difficult. I was re-editing my episode that I did when my job got eliminated and rereading some of the live comments that came up, and you guys were awesome. You were so supportive and kind, and I loved that. That's, for me, this is what it is all about, is creating a space and a community where we can support each other and listen to ideas that are new and different and make small changes that make our lives better. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for supporting each other. I think that these conversations are rare but important. So if you will, please take a moment to like the episodes that you watched tonight. If you watched multiple, please Take a moment to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Over half of my watchers are usually not subscribers. And please share these episodes with people that you know who need to hear them, because I know there are a lot of people out there who are not hearing these messages but need to. So thank you again for being here. Thanks, Ashley, for all you do. Please take care of each other, but mostly take care of yourself. Have a great night.